I've always been given that temptation to release images by people. Yo, why don't you let that picture go? And I'm like, no, because it's going to damage this person's career. It could also damage my career. And more than anything, my mom used to say, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing. I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. Love is real. If you guard it, if you protect it, love can help.
Welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast, where we dive into conversations that inspire personal growth, transformation, and clarity in challenging times. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat. I am moved and very excited to introduce this next podcast guest. Johnny Nunez is more than a photographer. He's a cultural archivist whose lens has shaped how the world sees hip-hop, Black excellence, and modern celebrity. For almost 20 years, he's been trusted by legends from Jay-Z to Beyonce, Nas to LeBron James, and many others. And he's been trusted by those folks because he does something that is very rare in this era of clickbait and exposure and sensationalism. He protects dignity. His philosophy of never taking an unflattering photo is a radical act of integrity in a world obsessed with tearing people down and tearing them up. At a time when truth and authenticity are being distorted by filters, AI, and viral culture, Johnny's work reminds us of the power of human connection, trust, and presence. Today, we're not going to talk just about photography. We're going to talk about legacy, resilience, and what it means to bear witness with honor and respect. This conversation is about the man who has become the keeper of memory for an entire generation, for an entire culture. Johnny Nunez, welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
You and I worked together briefly during the King Pleasure exhibition that Johnny and I did, my sister and I did, for our brother, Jean-Michel Basquiat. And I had heard about you and had kind of watched you from afar. And one of the things that I noticed instantly about you when we had the opportunity to actually encounter each other in person was just what I just described, that you were taking photos in a way that was so meticulously careful and aware. And it was different and it felt different. And that's no shade to any photographer at all, but there is a secret sauce that you had in the way that you interact with other human beings that is unique and so respectful and so filled with such integrity that I instantly wanted to know who the man behind the camera was.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then a couple of weeks later, I think, or maybe it was leading up, I think it was afterwards, we did an IG Live together. And that was when I had the chance to learn a little bit more about who you were. And the event was, it was in celebration of the 50 years of hip hop, and Ari Melber emceed the event. Johnny and I hosted, and my granddaughter Emma got to have Dougie Fresh bebop for her. And Gil was on the Gil Vasquez and Rhapsody were on the stage. It was a beautiful, beautiful event. So, Johnny, I don't even know where to start. I understand that you were adopted by a Puerto Rican family as a child, and that you were raised in Brooklyn, and that very often you were the only Black kid in your neighborhood. Can you share a little bit about your upbringing? Where in Brooklyn?
I was in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and thank you, Lisane, for that introduction. I really, really touched my heart, so I just want to say thank you. and your gracious family, beautiful family, Gail Gallagher and Ari Mulber and all of those other individuals that helped bring this project together when we first got to collaborate. So just want to thank you again for that opportunity, and to your sister.
You're welcome. Eileen Gallagher.
Yeah, Eileen Gallagher. Yeah. But I wanted to say, well, growing up in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, it was definitely not the Brooklyn that you see now. Um, as I was mentioning, there were immigrants, but for whatever reason, it was just a terrible time with racism. And I would walk to PS 34, which was the school, my elementary school, and I would see rocks zip by me, then bottles. And I would be scared. And back then, I don't even know how our parents would let us walk to school at the age of 6 or 7. And sometimes there would be a parent, sometimes there wasn't. It was just a bunch of 7-year-old, 8-year-olds walking together, which I would never have that happen now. But then as time progressed, I would go to school and there would be white kids saying, 3 o'clock, nigger, or 3 o'clock, spick. And I would tell my teachers, hey, I don't know what a nigger is or what a spick is, but they're doing this. And of course, the teachers knew what it meant, but they were like, when it's 3 o'clock, we opening that door and you got to go home.
Get out there.
So you would think that there would be some layer of protection. Sometimes I would look through the glass and I would see like the whole schoolyard filled with white boys just waiting for me. And I would beg the professor and the teachers, is there another way out? And sometimes the hall monitors would take me through the basement and I would go out to the back. And I would just be like, I would not understand what is it about me that this problem was. And so later on, my mom was like, look, wait for me at the school. I'm going to come and pick you up personally, or your brother's going to come and pick you up. So it was some days I would wait very long because my mom would work, my dad would work, and I couldn't wait in that corner because little by little I start to see one guy, then another guy, then three. And before you know it, nigger, that word, I start running through this, running home, and rocks and bottles. I sometimes got struck with the rock. I'll never forget one day, I was running to hopefully ring a bell of a stranger's home because they were gaining on me. And I rang a bell, and before I knew it, and I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, I rang the bell to tell the person, please help me. I'm being chased by a mob. And next thing you know, I hear, and they opened the door and let the German Shepherd chase me. So now I'm running on top of cars. On one side, I got all these crazy racist boys, and on the other side, I got a dog just gnarling to bite me. And I would be standing on someone's car, and it's like enough attention for neighbors to say, hey, leave him alone. But there was a good part of my block. And if you made it to the block, I had the white kids on my block that were cool. They would fight. My brothers would be there. Whoever was on my block, it was like the safety zone. So I still didn't understand racism, but now I was beginning to understand the color was something that had to do with it.
What is this thing about, I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Boerum Hill, and at first in Flatbush and then Boerum Hill. And what I'm remembering, Johnny, is I grew up in Boerum Hill. We grew up in a brownstone. And we went to school in Carroll Gardens and also PS 38, which is right on Pacific Street in Brooklyn. And I had the opposite. Well, not the opposite. It was the same thing. Because I would go to school and I'd mind my business, just go to school. I'm just trying to go to school. I'm like a little kid trying to get to school. And I'd go to school. And I remember this one day, and I would get these comments about me being light skinned, right?
Oh, boy.
And these are, and it was very diverse. There are a lot of Black kids in the school. And I remember these two girls. And there was one girl who was light skinned, another girl who was darker, and they would try to jump me every single day. They would be waiting for me
Mm.
every single day. And then this one day, I heard from a group of kids that I was supposed to be fighting somebody after school.
Oh.
I heard like at 3 o'clock, you're fighting this other, I'm not going to name her name just in case
Mm-hmm.
she's grown out of this nonsense. But they're like, you're going to fight with this person after school. And I'm like, what? So at the end of school, I went to the candy store to go get a little bag of candy. I would do that every day. And I got my little bag of candy. I'm just like walking, minding my business, my own Lisane business. And they're like, there she is. They're going to have to fight, 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 fight.
Oh,
And
no.
we go down and and a bunch of them got behind me and the rest of them got behind her and pushed us into each other so that we would fight. And I wasn't, that's not a natural thing for me, but I was so scared that I whipped that girl's ass. I was terrified.
Either you or me.
I was
Either
like,
you or me.
I was like, what are we doing? Wait a minute. And she started to cry. And but what I was really mad about, because this shows you how greedy my ass is, I was mad because my candy, my little bag of candy, got knocked out of my hand and the
Oh, no.
candy went flying to the ground. So that's all I was thinking about is my candy.
You ruined my ritual.
You ruined my ritual. I'm so pissed off. That must be the Virgo in me. And I went, and after I fought her, and she's sitting there all crying and whatever, and I just went and picked up my candy and put it in the bag and kept on going home. But nobody at home knew because my father worked, and I didn't, it was just me after school, and I was little. I think I was in like the third. I'm the age that my granddaughter is right now. I was about 8 years old in the third grade. And I walked home by myself, crossed the street and everything, got home, washed my face, got it together, and sat there with my family that night and never told anyone.
Sorry to hear that, man.
No, I mean, anyway, I don't even know how we got there.
Why didn't you want to tell them?
I think that I don't know. I got to think about that one. I think it was, I mean, somebody would have done something, I guess. You know what it is? I think that school, and I'm going to say going to school in Brooklyn at that time, but I have a feeling that that's the case in so many places. It's almost like you go to school and it's a world in and of itself. And you go there and it's really all about the report card at the end of a semester. But that world and the ways that children interact with each other, unless there's someone who's honed into that, I felt like once I went to school, I was kind of in my own world. And that's, what people did, I suppose. But I didn't. It wasn't like I was like, hey, somebody, they tried to fight me and this is what happened.
Happy you survived. Happy you survived.
Me too. Me too. But what I do wonder is, I know that experience, and I had several other experiences, and a lot of it was light skin, dark skin, or you talk this way, or you're Haitian, or you're Puerto Rican, or whatever the things are that we decide, or I'm mad at you because I live in the projects and you live in Borum Hill, and who do you think you are, and all this kind of nonsense. It was a lot of that. And I know that it shaped for me certain aspects of the adult that I am today. So I'm wondering, for you, having experienced that, how you think that may have influenced or impacted the person that you are today.
Yeah. So, thank you for sharing that as well.
You're welcome. Thank you for helping me bring that out.
Thank you. Thank you. In all fairness, there were the Polish immigrants that had come to my neighborhood as well, and they got it bad. Like they were getting jumped, beat, mostly robbed, because at the time they were looked on as not intelligent. All the Polish jokes you could imagine, I heard it all. So I would always have not a camaraderie, but I would always feel like I feel your pain, you know what I'm saying? Because you're being attacked and assaulted and robbed, and so am I. But the way I feel it shaped me is because my mom and dad that adopted me, they never made me feel like I was adopted. I thought I was my mother's biological baby because she said it in a Puerto Rican way, which I won't say verbally on the show because it's a curse word. But she basically said, "You came out of my body. Don't ever ask me again." And I would be like, "Okay, mom, you sure?" And it was like that movie, The Jerk, with Steve Martin, where they tell him, "We have to tell you something." And he's like, "What is it, mama?" Because, "Baby, you're not our baby. You're adopted." He's like, "What do you
What?
mean I'm not black?" It's sort of like it was the reverse for me. But because of the fighting and the violence and the constant racism that I had, there was very few friends that I had. And those friends that I did have, I cherished, like Michelle Hilberger, John Gautreau. John was another half, he was Black Puerto Rican, and he got the blunt of it too. But he was a big boy. So none of those cats wanted to fight him, but he still had to fight. He was only child, Catholic school. And when we first met, sort of like what happened with you, the white kids were like, "You guys gotta fight." They were
Like,
like,
what is
"Fight,
that?
fight a nigga and a spick and a nigga." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Nigga, I'm not a spick, who?" And somebody pushed me and somebody pushed him. And till this day, I have a scar on my leg from that fight. And but I guess it allowed me to learn how to run quickly, move quickly, think quickly, being in an environment that was just horrible. It also allowed me to befriend people. My wife says, "Johnny, you give so much," and I forgot what the word she uses, but it basically means you're a pleaser. And I say, "I'm not a pleaser," and she'll be like, "No, you always give and give and give, and then people don't give you back. And where does that come from?" And sometimes I say to myself, "You know what? I was always trying to be friends with the neighbors." Again, I didn't know why were the kids next door throwing these beautiful, elaborate backyard birthday parties. I was raised in a home myself, but I was never invited. So I would stand in front of the house, see the kids coming out with the triangular, circular hats and little candy bags. And I'm like, "How was the party? Was it good? What kind of cake was that? Oh man!" And what is it? Ignorance is bliss. I had no idea I wasn't invited for the
On
reasons
purpose.
of race. And I'd be like, "Wow, man, so and so, how was the party?" And meanwhile, I walked to school with you, parents as racist as the child, I can't blame, but the parents. So later on, when I got the chance to start doing photography, I just know that empathy, not and sometimes sympathy, allows me to look at people's conditions, and despite the stupidity, I will look past that and find a way to find a link between me and this individual. How can I turn this from hate to love? How can I maybe show them my value if given a chance in their life? And maybe I could change their way of thinking.
Hey, it's Lisane. I created Protect Your Peace, a boundaries and accountability workshop, because I know what it's like to feel stretched too thin and how it feels when you're saying yes to everyone else, but feel like you're disappearing in the process. This workshop is your invitation to pause and to come back to you. In just 2 hours, you'll learn how to set boundaries that reflect your values, protect your energy, and strengthen your voice unapologetically. You'll also learn how to hold yourself accountable in a way that builds self-trust and momentum, not burnout. This is the kind of space I wish I had when I was deep in the cycle of over-responsibility and simply just doing too much. So I created it for you. Join me for Protect Your Peace, live or on demand, and walk away with tools you can use immediately to get back in alignment. Click the link in the show notes to register. You deserve to protect your peace and your power.
And like you, I went on a trip to Europe with one of my clients, and there was a guy named Radu, and Radu grew up with my client, and they were all from Harlem, and we're in Paris and London and Milan, and all the time I'm with this group of brothers. The, for whatever reason, the dude Radu goes, "Can we curse on your show? Because I don't want to really say bad
Oh, you can
about
say
women."
what you have to say.
He was like, "Yo, why you brought this nigga with us, man? Who the fuck is this nigga right here?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, like I'm gonna be exposed, you know." And it was like a wolf pack of Harlem cats, and they all were like grouped together. The client was rich, and he had brought all of his neighborhood with him. And I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm being called out like that." And it's a big guy, and I don't want this first trip to Europe to be my last trip to Europe, you know?
You're like, I just want to have a good time.
So I'm like, just acting like I didn't hear that, you know? And they're like, "Yo, man, you know, like, go do something. Why are you standing here? Go take a picture of a fucking wall. Get out of my face," like that. And I would just like leave, you know? And I'd hear some chuckles and laughs. So next thing you know, the uh, in the French Riviera, Vanity Fair threw a party during the Cannes Film Festival. Same group, same trip, and Naomi Campbell was doing the marketing that time for the client. So as here we are, a bunch of brothers from New York City standing behind Naomi Campbell, and they said no, big old circle with a camera and a line across, like no cameras. So I said, "Naomi, I guess I'll wait with the driver." She's like, "No, we getting in here and you getting that camera in here." She said, "Dismantle your camera." So I took the lens off the body. She took the body, went right there. She said, "All right, take your lens. Someone put the lens in there, and under their armpit, and then you take the flash, put it in your purse." And beep, 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 metal detector. Naomi Campbell, what you gonna say? Got on the other side. I started to assemble my camera. I'm like, "Thanks, Naomi," you know. And so now we're at this Vanity Fair party, looking like the Gwen Stefani Eve video shoot, where one side is tuxedos, other side is hip hop, and so there goes that guy Radu just looking at me, and I'm like, "What am I gonna do to like get this person to leave me alone?" So I see Mick Jagger, Harvey Weinstein, and Sting talking. So I ran over to them and I said, "Excuse me, Mick Jagger, big fan. Uh, Sting, do you mind if I get the three of you to throw up the rock sign for Rockefeller Records?" And he goes, "Well, what does that mean?" I'm like, "Oh, it's the universal sign of peace and love." So Sting immediately went like that.
Mhm.
Harvey Weinstein did it. I fixed his hands. This is before he got arrested. And then Mick Jagger didn't want to do it. He goes, "No, no." And I said, and then Sting said, "Come on, Mick." And then finally Mick went like this. And then I took a picture of Mick like this, Harvey Weinstein like that, and Sting like this, the three of them. And then I went back to the entourage and I said to Damon Dash, "Look, Dame, I took this picture." And then Radu said, "Holy shit, you got Sting to throw up the rock? I fuck with you now. I fuck with you now." And then the whole trip throughout Africa, London, Paris, yeah, I was now officially breaking the ice down with the crew.
Wow. Wow. I think that when there's something about that's very painful about being the other when you're young
Mhm.
that gives you the tools to be able to navigate the world differently as you get older,
Yeah.
And I know that when I look back on that time for me, there's the part of me that is looking at like the little girl in me, like, "Oh my gosh, girl, you were like,
Mhm.
oh, you were by yourself. You felt like you were by yourself." And then there's the other part of me that saw what was going on. And I felt frustrated with the girl because I knew that this was a situation of having two light skinned people fight each other. And I was like, "You dummy." Like, that's what I felt like, "You dummy. Like,
Mhm.
what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to prove? Like, why are you letting them, put you in this situation when we don't have any problem with each other? We don't even know each other." So
Mhm.
I think that um, Do you think, I'm kind of putting this in you, I'm kind of serving this answer up to you, but how do you think that has helped you? Like, do you call upon, is that kind of what it is? Like finding a way to get people
To open up.
to kind of break through? Yeah. Is that how you see it?
Well, you know, my mother was a saint, like all of our mothers are. My biological mother, I got a chance to meet her, and I won't say nothing bad about her, but I love her and I forgive her.
You have met her.
Yeah, she was on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and um, my mom, who raised me and adopted me, she was like a civil servant. She was always helping the poor. We was poor, but she would still give to the homeless. Neighbors would come over and want to borrow sugar or flour. My mother would give whatever we had, and like, I was always curious, but always wondering, like, why are we giving and giving? And my mother would always tell me, you know, giving, God will return it back tenfold.
I believe that 1,000%.
Yeah. And unfortunately, when I was 10, she passed away. So, on that note, giving was something that was already embedded in me. So, when I came of age and I was going to college and, high school, I would, it's going to sound funny, but I lived in Brentwood, Long Island at this time. And my friends would say, we're going to sneak out of our houses and go to New York City to dance house music in the nightclubs. So here I was, like 15, 16 years old, sneaking out of the window to take the Long Island Railroad into New York City, because the Sound Factory, the Red Zone, the Tunnel, the Underground, all those clubs were, in the 20s and 30s by the West Side Highway.
That's right.
And because I used to feed the homeless, and be part of my church in the soup kitchen, I would tell the supermarket that I worked at, let me buy 100 slices of cheese, and then I would go to the Dunkin' Donuts, and I made a relationship with one of the workers that, listen, we can't give you old food, but what we can do is tell you when we're going to throw it out in the back. We throw out all of our donuts and bagels at 11 o'clock in the hefty bag. So the day before I was going out to the nightclub, I would go in the garbage dumpster, take out all these bagels and croissants. And so then the next day would come, I'd have the cheese in the refrigerator. And because I worked at the supermarket, I would get like 100 bags, 200 bags. I'd take all the produce that they were going to get rid of the next day, apples, oranges. And on the train, I literally made my friends make sandwiches. So here we were making sandwiches on the train. Some of my friends like, I can't believe this. We're going to a nightclub and we're going to smell like apples and oranges. And by the time we got to Penn Station from Brentwood, we had made 100 bags of food. So throughout Penn Station, I would just be giving the sandwiches away with my friends. And I'm like, don't you feel good? And I'm like, no. I don't want to ever come out dancing with you ever again.
But they did it.
Yeah.
So Johnny, this was you sneaking out.
Yes.
This was part of your sneak out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Giving. Come and think about it. It was crazy because here we were, 15, 14 years old, sneaking into nightclubs that you had to be 18. We would give the bodyguard like a $5 bill or whatever the increment was at the time. And, okay, I saw your ID. You can go inside.
And that's not sneaking out from like Brooklyn. Like Brentwood is out there.
Yeah.
You were sneaking out of your house in Brentwood to go that's like an hour and a half.
I'd get home around 4 or 5 in the morning at the last train that would take us to around Concombre Lake. And next thing you know, Johnny, get ready, school. I'm like, yeah, getting up, Dad. And I'm like, I had no sleep whatsoever.
Listen, I'm dating myself, but New York City at that time, the clubbing in New York City at that time was amazing. Mm-hmm. Like it was fun times. And I know I'm speaking to a photographer, but it wasn't about the camera. It was about dancing and sweating your behind off and having a good time.
Stomp shoes,
Stomp,
aviation
yeah.
jackets, Doc Martens,
Yes.
wave heads. I
Yes.
was
And
all in that life,
yeah,
Hair was
and
crazy,
dancing while
African
you're
beats.
drinking and like have your
Yeah.
drink, but it was really like for hydration and
Hmm.
literally dancing for 7, 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
And then you go have breakfast at a diner somewhere in the city.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
go
That was
home
it.
to wherever
Mhm.
you lived.
Yeah.
Wow, what a time, what a
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah. It was cool.
You've been and I'm not going to ask you the
Mhm.
question about how you decided to become a photographer. And here's
Okay.
the reason why. Because
Okay.
you've told that story before and I want to
Hmm.
hear some new things from you. So for those of you who are listening, if you want to hear the incredible story of how Johnny Nunez decided to become a photographer and his encounter with God in doing that, I highly recommend that you find it and listen to it
Thank
so
you.
we can get some extra stuff in here.
Oh yeah, no, totally,
Right?
totally. That was from Set Free's podcast. Set Free is a curator of art. You have to meet him. I'm sure you may have met him before.
No,
Set
I don't
Free.
think so. Mm-mm.
It's an amazing art space in Brooklyn, and as you can see, you and him got to meet. I can't wait. I can't wait to introduce you both. But a funny story. Funny story. It's not funny, but I was just telling a friend the other day that how I became one of Michael Jordan's photographers was I was on 23rd Street and Park Avenue, and I was dating my wife at the time, new girlfriend, and I had very little money as a photographer. And I called one of my clients that owed me money. And as you know, probably that when you have your own business, you kind of get paid when they pay you.
Feast or
And
famine.
if they can try to not pay you, they'll try. If they try to, they can also try to make you wait a long time to pay you, the worst. So I was waiting on $1,000, I think. And I called the person like, hey, how's it going? So and so. They're like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I'm like, I'm fine, but I'm really calling you about the check. Can I come pick it up? Are you going to mail it to me? Well, I'm not here right now. I'm actually out of the country. I return next week. Beep. It was one of those like funny messages. And I was just like livid because all I had was like $20 on me. And I was like wondering, how am I going to pay for certain things? And I got to go take my girlfriend out. And all of a sudden, a morbidly obese brother comes over to me with a dirty shirt, hole on it, big old gut. I say big old gut, not physically, but just like, what do you want, man? He goes, I need some money. I said, you want some money? In my mind, I'm like, I have no money. I have $1,000 I was depending on. I have $20 in my pocket.
I got this woman I want to take out. I want to have, this is
Yeah,
not a good night.
yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I said in my mind, agape love. I said,
That's
you
right.
know what? Let me see. Let me give him one last chance before I curse him out. I said, if I give you this money, what are you going to do with it? Because I'm thinking, if he says anything about like, I'm going to go smoke some weed, or if he says anything about drugs, I'm going to let him have it. He goes, I really don't care about the money. I just want food. I said, you just want food? Today's your lucky day. Come with me. So we crossed the street on 23rd Street and we're walking towards Madison Avenue. And there was a Subway sandwich spot on the left-hand side. I said, you cool with the sandwich? He's like, yes. I said, come on, let's go. I opened up the door. We went in. And I immediately began to see people covering their noses and people like
Hmm.
getting away from him.
New York
And I
City.
felt like,
Yeah.
that's really cruel that you would treat someone like that. But, it is what it is. I said, hey, Al, I made up a name. Like, yo, Al, what you want on a sandwich? Turkey, Swiss with lettuce and tomatoes, man. All right, go get some chips from over there because I'm going to make the order right now. So as I began to make the sandwich and he got his chips, I said, I grabbed the sandwich and said, here, take this back to work. Tell our boss that I'll see you in 20 minutes. I'm just running late. All right, Al? You take care, bro. He left, and I got to the register. I said, how much is that sandwich? They're like, $11, whatever it was. And in my mind, I was arguing with myself. Like, you were broke before, but now we're even more broke, Johnny. Good idea to give away the only money that you had. Now what you going to do, So I'm over here in my mind arguing with myself, L. And I get to the door, and the phone rings. Just as I grabbed the door from the subways to exit, the phone rang. I picked it up. I said, hello? They said, hello, is this Johnny Nunez? I'm like, yes, this is Johnny Nunez. You came under a great recommendation, and we want to know, are you available to photograph for us tomorrow and the next day? 2-day job. I'm like, 2-day job? I'm like, yeah, I can. And he goes, well, what is your half a day rate and what is your whole day rate? And I'm like, my whole day rate? I said, you know what? Since you're a new friend of mine, I don't know. Tell me, what do you think? He said, well, how's $7,000 sound? I said, I said, give me 1 second. Hold on. I was going crazy. I'm like, $7,000. This is like 1998, 19. I'm like, yes, that sounds cool. Because, so we need your routing number and your account number so we can send you and wire you half the amount up front. And when the job is done, we'll wire you the other half. And I'm like, well, I don't have my router number or my account number on me right now. I'm heading home so I can get it for you. Is it, Mr. Nunez, the minute you send the stat, we will wire you half the money. So I was like, okay, that's great. So I'm thinking like, so that's like $3,500. I said, so I guess 3,500. She said, no. We're gonna send you half the money. It's 3 events. I'm like, 3 events? Because Mr. Nunez, it'll be $7,000 per event. So it'll be a total of 21,000, but we'll give you one half up front. I said, so who is the client, if you don't mind me asking? Michael Jordan. It's his dinner and his private Jordan Brand Classics event. I said, thank you very much. I wound up for the next 3 years shooting his Michael Jordan Brand Classics festival or event. And that is like an example of like how I feel God has given me opportunities, not because I was cool, not because, I got to do things to show people who I am. I feel like when you do acts of kindness, where they're not seen, God sees it, and you will be blessed. I'm a walking, living testimony to that. And till this day, I work with Nike, and I work with some of the big people like Larry Miller and Reggie Saunders. These are just amazing people at Nike that gave me an opportunity. But again, I feel that when I gave that guy that sandwich, that was actually an angel. I feel homeless, yeah, but in my heart, I knew that was planted by God.
For those listening, there's a couple of things that are coming up hearing this story. One is I too am a walking testimony to listening. There are times where I will hear something and not the hearing in the just like, yes, do that. And I always know when it's that confirmation that like when you obey that voice, it always works out for good. And it's not always about like the money on the end of it. Like it always, for me, that is the cloud that moves my steps from one place to another, from one situation to another, from one person to another. So there's that, listening to the voice when you hear it, when you sense it, no matter how crazy it may seem when you're looking at the situation through the lens of what people deem normal or what makes sense. The second part of it is what happens when you continue on your path because you were a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
You were struggling in that moment, waiting. And the experience of being an entrepreneur is challenging. It takes guts. It takes courage. It takes risk. It takes patience. And for those folks who are listening, the encouragement that it's going to work out. Do the thing that you feel led to do because sometimes it's tough, and it also has a way of working out when you are on your path and doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It just reminds me of so many times where I I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how. And something would happen, and I'd have people like say, like, you're crazy. Like, what are you giving to this person for? What are you spending your time, or whatever the thing is?
Mm-hmm.
But what you know in your heart, you know in your heart.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, can we talk a moment about setting the vibe? If you're anything like me, your space needs to feel good in order for you to feel good. And that's why I created the Shaping Freedom line of candles. It's not just about ambiance, but really about how you align yourself internally. These are more than just candles, they shift your energy. Whether you're journaling, meditating, working out, or just taking a moment for yourself, these scents are curated to ground you, lift you up, and bring you back home to yourself. They also have an 80-hour burn time and scents that are designed to evoke feelings of alignment and internal congruency. And we can all use that. Go to shop.shapingfreedom.com and check them out. Find the one that speaks to your spirit, or buy all four, and let them burn with intention. Johnny, one of the things about your reputation is that you never post an unflattering photo. Never. Have you ever been pressured to break that rule?
Many times, many times. I even been invited to dangerous. No, I won't say dangerous. I've been invited to crazy parties where you will see crazy things, and something in my gut said, "Don't go." Or the minute I walked in, I saw so and so doing this with so and so, and I'm like, I didn't see that. I didn't see that, and any other photographer would have totally cashed out on that. But I said, you know what? You eat what you kill in life, but at the same time, you don't poop where you eat. And the minute you publicate that image, or an Inquirer or one of them, tabloid type of publications post that, and it's your name, you just shot yourself in the foot. You'll never work in that part of town ever again. And I always tell people, be kind to everybody, from the receptionist to the executives. Be nice and be kind, because you never know who that receptionist is going to be. You never know, that executive might be on top, but tomorrow he might be the custodian.
That's
So
right.
I always humble myself to people, so that you never know what life will be like tomorrow. But blessings to the people that do love being nice to people, because when that person that's working in the front desk winds up becoming an executive at another company, and they remember you, Johnny, I need you to cover my event. How much is your rate? Oh man, yo, pay him three events in advance. Like, now that doesn't really happen all the time, but my point is that
Yeah,
you have to you definitely, in our industry, you have to be respectful and mindful of all the people. Now, to answer the question, I've always been given that temptation to release images by people. Yo, why don't you let that picture go? And I'm like, no, because it's going to damage this person's career. It could also damage my career. And more than anything, my mom used to say, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing, you
yeah.
know? And I still, to this day, I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution,
Mm,
you know? And I feel love is real. If you guard it, if you protect it, love can help. But if you love harm and greed and evil, you know, it corrupts. It's chaos, and you can be part of that, or you could choose not to be part of it. You could choose love, you know?
It's the choice. It's the
Mm-hmm.
choice. I think sometimes people act like the norm is cutthroat, take what you can get, don't, protect yourself at all costs. And I live a different reality, and I know you do as well. And I know many people who do. And I also have witnessed and know through my own experience that when you live by the principles of love, when you live by the principles of God gives, I'm okay. I can have this experience with someone here and it's going to come back somewhere else. I don't have to hold it to that person. Um, you wind up attracting that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that to me is what you reap, what you sow is. I mean, so often people see that scripture as from the negative. You reap what they got, what
Mm-hmm.
they deserved. You reap what you sow. Conversely, we reap what we sow, meaning where you put your energy is what's going to grow in your life. And so if you put your energy into kindness and into generosity and into empathy and compassion, I am a living witness and testament to how that creates that energy within you, but also around you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you a couple, as we're getting short on time, I'm going to ask you a couple
Mm-hmm.
of like quick round questions.
Sure.
You got a minute for them?
Of course,
Okay.
sure.
You have been documenting hip hop for decades. When you
Mm-hmm.
scroll through the photos that you've taken, which ones still surprise you and why?
Jay-Z and Nas toasting with on Jay-Z's shirt it said Notorious B.I.G. I call that the hip hop trinity shot because Jay-Z calls himself Hova, Jehovah, and then Nas has tattooed on his belly Godson. And then because Biggie wasn't in the shot, but the shirt said Notorious B.I.G., that's the spirit. So you have the
Mm,
Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So that's my hip hop Trinity shot. It actually is in the living room of DJ Khaled. And,
mm.
it also is, I'm going to have an exhibit in December in Miami during Art Basel. I might make one of those prints. And then another one, although you've seen, I won't say the person was an imposter, but back when I started, several photographers would take their camera, not necessarily from our culture, but it was their job to be the photographer, even if they didn't like the music or the culture. So what they would do is this, and they still do it to this day. They'll wait for me, someone that might know the artist and might know the music and the culture, and they'll just stand there like this. And the minute I get Mob Deep, Nas, Royal Flush, look over here, and now I got them. I went all through the work to get them together. The minute I take my camera out, they start shooting
Wow.
right away, and
Yeah.
then the artists do this. And then I go, oh no, look over here, look over here. And by that time, they're like, yo, so what's going on? And they start talking, and you just stole my shot. You just ruined the moment. And they just walk away. Like,
Yeah. Because they got theirs.
yeah. And so there's a famous picture of Cameron with a pink cell phone and a pink fur. That was my shot. But I was shooting with film, and this individual was shooting with digital. And she would always do this to me. She always put her camera, and I would say, could you do me a favor? Stop doing that. I don't do that to you. Please don't do that to me. And she was, she would like complain in French that it's whatever. I don't really care. And so when I had the roll of film, I lived in Washington Heights at this point, and my upstairs neighbor had a flood. All that water trickled from the roof, from the floor through my roof and destroyed almost a quarter of my negatives. When I got home, all my negatives, and then when I looked, it was the Cameron negatives, it was the 4x6s all destroyed, it was stuck together. And I was just like, wow, I couldn't believe it. But it wasn't important at the time. Next thing you know, that image goes viral. It goes viral. It's very, people make Halloween costumes of with a pink fur coat, pink cell phone, Motorola, baby fat phone. And long story short, recently I was archiving, looking through some old photos, and through the grace of God, there it was, one of the original prints of him on the phone. I'm like, yay! Now I can have my exhibit. So, yeah. So, but those are some great photos. Barack and Michelle Obama. Um, Other great images that I cherish is my son and daughter, Jeremiah and Joya, when they were babies. So I must have at least,
I know you have amazing photos of those two.
yeah, me and my wife couldn't be any more happy. And those are the greatest photos of my life.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
My son Jeremiah, he is 15, and he's presently at Phillips Andover Academy in Massachusetts. And my daughter is 13, and she goes to Bank Street here in
Oh,
Manhattan.
nice. Nice. Wow. Look at you. Look at your
Thank you.
family.
Thank you.
Those are great ages too. My kids are grown as heck.
Really?
Um,
You look
yeah.
like a baby.
Huh? I am a
You look like a
baby.
baby. That's
I am
right.
a baby. I had them before I got here.
Oh, that part right there.
That's right, you know. No, I have my son is 43, my daughter's 32.
What?
Yes.
You look like
Yes.
you're 43, maybe younger. I was thinking, wow, God bless.
Yeah, and I have
That
two
goes back,
great
baby.
kids. I
God
have
bless.
an 8-year-old granddaughter and an 18-year-old grandson. And
Wow.
with all the things, the the best is
Wow.
us, you know?
Amen.
That's the
Amen.
best, is a family.
Amen. Amen.
Um, do you consider yourself a historian or a photographer?
I would like to say both, you know, and I'm when I was doing it in the beginning, it was because I believe God told me to do it, and I trusted. I still trust him in him, and as a result, it later on, as I started to notice, like I've got millions of photos of our culture, whether it's from hip hop or Latin or um, sports or things that affected the LGBTQ community. I just felt I documented by supporting all these um, directions of culture in this American society. And as a result, now it went from photography to photojournalism to being a historian, keeper of the flame, you know?
You are a keeper of the flame, Johnny. You are a
Thanks so
keeper of the
much.
flame of this culture.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think thank you. And I
Thank
think
you.
what's so beautiful about that is that just like the story you were telling about setting up the shot and then having other people take the shot that you
Hmm.
set up, um, you're telling the story of our culture in a way that is filled with love and appreciation for the beauty of our culture,
Thank
you
you.
know? A few weeks ago, it could have been a few months ago, because honestly, this year has been a whirlwind for me. I saw, and you mentioned that you have an exhibition coming up, so I'm very excited about that. I'd love to hear more about that.
I want to work with you again. I want to collaborate with you again.
Yes, yes. But I saw on the internets that Swiss Beats was talking about supporting artists and supporting photographers and the importance of that. And first of all, I second that.
Thank you.
There is a work that you have been doing for over 2 decades, um, through work, but also the result and consequence of that is that you are documenting our history through beautiful eyes of love. And we get to, as a culture, as a society, as an American society, we get to enjoy the fact that you and others like you have taken the time to, as artists, to document history. You're doing it. My brother, Jean-Michel Basquiat, did it. Artists, other photographers, people in fashion, like our history is being documented. And I, first of all, want to thank you for that. And secondly, for those who can, encourage us to invest into the art that we get to enjoy. It's not just about being able to see a reel on, one of the social media platforms. This is someone's art. And so I think that no matter where we are, no matter how much you have in your checkbook from one day to the next, because it flips, over life, um, value art, value art. It's the thing that helps us to be sane. It's the thing that helps us to laugh and remember, different times in history. And we can't count on other people to tell us when and how and who we are. We get to do that ourselves. And let's support each other in doing that, Will you tell us about your exhibition at Art Basel?
Yeah, as of right now, I may be collaborating with Brooklyn Chop House, which they're opening the grand opening December 2nd in Miami. So as of right now, it's going to be in that proximity. I'll get the information and I'll definitely share it with you when I lock it in. But I definitely also, for the record, would love to partner up with you again and do something amazing in 2026. Maybe we could do
Let's do
something.
it. I'm building my 2026 calendar right now. That'd be
Let's go.
amazing.
I would be
Yeah.
honored.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I understand that you're planning a book. Is that true? Or is that a
Yeah,
rumor?
I'm in search of the right publisher. So if any feelers are out there, let us know. And currently, people have come with offer opportunities, but I don't know how to explain it. I guess when the right time comes, it'll come.
You'll know.
Yeah.
What do you hope? So we talked about that you are a historian of sorts. Historian, I think, as much as you are a photographer. Um,
Thank you.
what would you hope that people see, that future generations see, when they have the opportunity to encounter Johnny Nunez's work?
That I was able to capture an emotion suspended in time.
Mm,
That I was able to uh, transplant the individual from where they were into the actual frame as a witness, seeing what I saw and being the judge of that moment, seeing what I captured, and also so that we don't get rock and rolled again. No other culture or race could say that this came from them. This is like the Hebrews of Africa. Like
that's
we
right.
start there. We don't start somewhere else in the middle. We don't start with a book midway in the chapter of the book. We start at the beginning.
At the beginning.
Hip hop, like rock and roll, bebop, jazz, country. That's right, country music, all black. You know. So yeah, that's what I want people to see, that this is something that we did.
Wow. My last question for you, Mr. Nunez.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how can we support you?
Um, if there's any uh, opportunities to exhibit my work in any galleries overseas, especially because I feel like I'm a big fish in a small pond. I'd love to explore and collaborate with other artists and other gallery exhibits. And my email is Johnny Nunez Photo at Gmail. My Instagram is Johnny Nunez, JOHNNY. Nunez is like New York City, NUNEZ.
Okay. All right. Johnny, every time I talk to you, I learn something. I feel something.
Thank you.
I feel inspiration,
Thank you.
encouragement, and I feel the joy of being connected to another child of God who gets it, who
Thank
gets
you.
it, who gets it, that it's love, who gets it. Um, so I cannot tell you enough. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for this conversation. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing for the
Thank you.
culture, what you're doing for society, through your cameras, but also through your contribution and your presence, your incredible presence in this world. Thank you so much. Really.
I love you, sister. Thank you so much.
I love you too. I love you too.